Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and with this video we will start our journey to cover the basics of C++ programming language. For better understanding of the C++ language, we have to cover different topics from basic to advanced level, and that's why I have planned to break down the whole tutorial into the series of small video lectures. So without wasting any more time, let's start our journey with this first episode of the series. In this video, we will cover the following topics. First, to set up the environment which is required for our C++ development. Second, intro about C++ and how it is different from its predecessor C language. Third, the introduction to object-oriented concept. And last, we will write our first test program, execute it, and check the compilation steps. Now let's start with setting up the environment. For environment setup, we need mainly two things. First, editor to write our code. Second, compiler to compile our code. There are many different editors available in the market, but here we will go with Microsoft Visual Studio Code. I prefer this one because it has many advantages of its own. It is completely open source and available for different platforms like Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. It is easy to use and support many extensions also. It also supports wide range of programming languages and scripting languages like Java, JavaScript, Python, HTML, and others. So once we will learn how to use this tool, then we can also use the same for our future development of other projects. Okay, now for download the installer file, we'll open our browser, search for VS Code here. This is the result. We'll go to this first link, and this is the official site from where we can download the installer file. By this option, we can choose for which platform we have to download the installer file, either for Mac OS or Windows 64-bit or Linux 64-bit. Else, we can choose this option, download for Windows, because this will automatically detect the system configuration and download the installer file accordingly. So let's click on this one and save the file. And here our downloading is starting. Let's wait for completion. It seems the download is completed. We go to the folder where it is downloaded. This is the one. Click the setup file. It will ask to accept the agreement. Click on this and next. Choose all this option, and if you want to create a desktop shortcut icon, then choose this one. I don't need this, so I left it unchecked. Next. This is all the path, and next we have to click on install. On this, it will start installing the Visual Studio Code on your system. Since I already have installed the software in my system, so I will not click this time and cancel it. Now for the next step, we will download and install the compiler. For this, we will open one more tab and search for MinW installer. We will go to this link, getting started MinW. This one is official site for MinW compiler. Here we can find the complete details about the compiler, like its current version, its release notes, how to install it, and other information. So to get the setup file, we need to click on this link, minw.getsetup.exe. This will open this page and your download will be started shortly. Save the file and it will start the download. Let's wait to finish it. Now the download is completed. We will go to the directory where it is downloaded. This is our folder and this is our setup file. Click on this. This will give us this window to install the compiler. Click on install. We can install this in the default C drive. Left the option as it is, then continue. It will start downloading the required packages. It will take some time. Here it started downloading the packages. Left it to complete. Okay, now the package download is completed. Then continue, and it will give us this window. Now from this window, we can choose mainly two packages which is of our need. The first one is the basic MinW installation file, base one. Check it and mark for installation. The second one is this one, GNU CC plus compiler. So also check this one and mark for installation. Perfect. Now go to installation and apply changes. And apply. Download and install our main packages which we required for our C++ development. It will take some more time. Let it to download and install the packages. Okay, now it is completely downloaded and extracted all the packages. Our download is completed, so we can close this option and also close this one. So now it seems our compiler download is completed. So we go to the location to verify the same. We install in C drive, go to C drive, search for MinW. This is our MinW. This is go to bin folder, and here we can find all the exes and DLL which is required for the compilation by the system. It seems our compiler setup is completed. But wait, it is not yet completed. We haven't done yet. One more final step is still left, and that is setting up the environment variable. Yes, correct. We also need to update our system environment variable so that our system will easily locate the required g++.exe, this file, while compiling the code. Now, in order to do this, first of all, we will copy the path of this bin directory. Copy. Then we go to our system properties, right click on this PC, properties, go to advanced system settings. This will give us this pop-up window. Then go to environment variables options. And these are all variables of our system. Then in the system variable section, we will look for path variable. We'll scroll down and select this path variable. We have to update this path variable. Select it and edit it. So now we have to add a new value for this path variable. So click on new and paste the copied path of bin directory. Then click on OK. Okay, and close it. Minimize the same, minimize this one, and now with this we are completely done of setting off our environment for the C++ development. So now we move to our next section. Now in this section we will start with what is C++. C++ is a programming language which was developed by Jan Slostrup in 1979. Before the development of C++, C was the most widely used programming language. But there were still some of the features which were missing while using the C language, like security and scope of data in the code, better and understandable code structure and architecture, code modularity, etc. So to fill those gaps, C++ was developed after that. C++ is nothing but a superset of C language. It means that it supports all the features of C language as well as some new features were also introduced in C++. Today, C++ is a very much popular language and it is used in different areas of application like in writing device drivers, middleware code development, application software development, and others. These days, we are also having the advanced version of C++, like C++11, C++14, and C++17, with some extended feature to support the demand in the current market. We will also cover them in our future videos of this series. Now let us see what are the things which differ C++ from its predecessor C language. First of all, we have to understand that C is a procedural programming type language. Now the question is, what is a procedural programming language? A procedural programming language is mainly based on procedural call, or we can also call them as routine, subroutines, or function calls. It follows the series of computational steps. Using this technique, when we target to solve a large problem, it will become a bit complex and our code size will also increases. So with the C++, a new concept was introduced in the programming world, and that is object-oriented concept, or we simply called it as a OOPS concept. Using the OOPS concept, now we are having the provision to break down the large complex problem into the small blocks that is called as objects. And then we can write our code targeting each object. And the best part of this is that one object can interact with the other object. So by putting all these objects together, we can achieve our goal to solve the complete problem. Now we will move forward to see the basics fundamentals of OOPS concept. The whole world of object-oriented programming is based on its four basic foundation points. These are the ones. First one is encapsulation. Second one is abstraction or data hiding. Third is inheritance. And fourth is polymorphism. At this point, I will just give a brief intro about these 4 points and we will see them in detail along with the code snippet in the future videos of this series. So let's start with encapsulation. Encapsulation has a simple meaning of binding the necessary data together. In our code, we mainly have two things. One is data, and second is a function, which acts on those data. When we collect or bind or bundle a set of specific data and function together into one single entity, then this mechanism is known as encapsulation. And that single entity which we have just created is known as class. The main goal here is to keep both data and functions safe from the outside world. And also, by defining different classes according to our need, we can break down the complex problem into small classes and then further act on them. Now moving to second one, abstraction. We can also call abstraction as a process of data hiding. Now since we are having our class and inside the class we have required data and function. But among these data and function, there are some of which we need to expose and share to the outside world, and the rest we need to keep safe for our internal calculation and should not get manipulated by the outside world. So here comes the concept of abstraction. There are three types of access specifier by which we can do the classification between the data and function which we need to keep as private and the other which we need to expose to the outside world. These three types of access specifiers are public, private, and protected. Later on, we will also see about the details of this. Now the third one is inheritance. Here the name itself is explaining this property. This feature provides us the support to define a new entity by inheriting the property of the existing entity. This means that we can define a new class that will inherit the property of the existing old class. So now we are having a new class which have its own new property, plus it will also have the property of its parent class from which it is inherited or derived. This property gives us the idea of code reusability. In the future video, we will see the inheritance in detail and its different types because C++ supports 4 to 5 types of inheritance. Now moving to the last one, that is polymorphism. The polymorphism means having more than one form at the same time. In a simple word, we can understand polymorphism as the OOPS concepts using which we can define and use the existing property in multiple forms. Polymorphism is also somewhere linked with the inheritance feature. There are basically two types of polymorphism, static polymorphism and dynamic polymorphism. We'll cover this in the future videos with the code example. So with this, we are at the end of the introduction of C++ language, and now we will proceed to our next section to write our first test program in C++. Now, for writing the code, we should go to our editor, Visual Studio Code, which we have installed earlier. Let me open that first. Yep, this is the one. It is one of the cool looking, user-friendly, and very simple type of editor. Before starting, let me introduce you with this editor, its interface, and the extension which we need to add here for the C++ code writing. Starting from the left, here we can find a lot of options. In the top, this one is known as Explorer. Using this, we can explore the directory structure of our code. It is very useful when we are dealing with a complex project which contain multiple directories and large number of files. We can easily access those files and directory using this Explorer option. The second one is Search. It is simply used to search and replace the string in the code. The third one here is of source control. What happens generally, in many projects we need to manage the different versions of our source code to track in which version we did what changes. So if anything gone wrong in the current version, we can roll back to our last stable version of the code. For this, we can use different tools available in the market like Git, SVN, CVS, etc. So from this option, we can directly initialize our source control or version control repository which are set up in a local machine or a remote machine currently in the network. Also, we can publish our code online in our GitHub account using this option, publish to GitHub. The fourth one is for debug. It is useful in a scenario when there is some fault in our code or like our code is getting crashed during execution and we are not able to locate the error. Then using this option and putting breakpoints, we can debug our code for deeper analysis. The next option here is for extensions. This one provides us a large number of extensions that are supported by VS Code Editor. The last one is for test. If we need to write a test script to check the use case of project, then we can use this area. Now coming to the central part. This whole area is our playground, and here we can write and play with our code. This is the place where we can put our logic in the form of code. Now the editor interface is done and we can move further with our coding part. But before that, one most important thing to do is to install two plugins for C++. For this, we go to the extension menu here and search here for C++. This is the result, and this first one is the extension which we are looking for. This is the C++ extension from Microsoft. Install this one. Now this plugin is required to make our editor compatible with C++ language. It will provide us the support of IntelliSense. IntelliSense is a code completion aid that includes a number of features like it will automatically sense or detect the syntax which we are going to use in our code, and it will suggest us different options to complete the code. We will see this shortly. Now this extension is installed properly. We will look for our next one, that is Code Runner. This one. This first extension is what we are looking for. Click on this and click on install. Now this extension will help us in easy compilation of the code. It will add a play button here, this button. Now using this button, we can easily compile and run our code by a single click. We can find a lot more detail about this extension in this page. Now the extension part is completed and we will next move towards the coding part. Close this one, and now we are ready to write our first test code. First of all, we need to create a directory to save our project file. We can open the Explorer and create a folder. I will name this as, suppose, CPP demo project. Enter. Copy this path, minimize it, now go to file and open folder option. Paste this one, go to this path and select this folder. It is refreshing, and now this is our project directory. We will go to this one and create one new file inside this directory. We will name this file as test1.cpp. Enter. Now we can start the coding with hash include IOStream using namespace std int main void cout in the inverted comma hello is the test code. Enter. Return 0. Yes. So now this is our simple test code. I will explain this with line by line. First, we will execute this one. To execute this one, we just go to this play button and click on this. It will open our terminal window here, which will run the PowerShell of the system. and it will finally give the output of the code after compilation. Currently, this code is under compilation. Just wait for a minute. Yes, now the code is compiled and it is printing our output. Hello, this is the test code. So now go to the code and we can see what we are currently doing inside this. So starting from this first line, hash include IO stream. Here, IO stream stands for the standard input and output. This is a header file which is present in the C++ library and contain the definition of the function cout, this one, and other function like cin, etc., which we currently use in our code. It is mainly responsible to manage to get the input from the user and print the output on the screen. Like here it is printing. Now the second one is using namespace std. Now this using namespace std means that we are going to use the classes which is defined inside the standard namespace. Namespace is mainly used to define the scope of the variables and classes and prevent the name confusion if other variable or function are defined with the same name in some other namespace. Here we are using the namespace std, which is also known as standard namespace, because our cout class, this cout class is defined inside the standard namespace. This standard namespace is also a part of C++ library. Now coming to this line, int main void. Now this int main is our main function inside which we can write our code. This is the entry point of every C++ program. So int main function is a very necessary to provide in any C++ program. We can also further write our own function with some other name, whatever we like, and then we can call that function from inside this main function. In this main function, we write here int. This int is the return type of the main function. It means that the type of the value which this main function is returning is of type integer. There are different data type present in C++ like integer, float, string, etc. We will see them in detail in the future videos. And here, this one where we write void. This is the place where we can pass the variables of the function, which we can further use for calculation inside this function. This is known as argument of the function. Currently, we are not taking any variable, so we have just put this as void. It means nothing. One more thing, if you have noticed, when I am writing any C++ predefined syntax, suppose I write cout, I have to write cout, C O. So at this point, it will provide me with the list of predictive text from which I can choose and complete that syntax. This is known as the intelligence feature, which I was talking about. So now this code is complete. We can move to another simple code in which we can simply ask the user to provide the input and then print that input. Now we can create one more file to write the new code, and we will name this as test2.cpd. We can again start with hash include IO stream using namespace std int main void cout, enter a number, we can define that variable here first. Int a equal to 0, then check the number, same, a cout the number which you have entered is colon a. Return 0. Now we will execute this code, run, just wait for a bit, a number. I will enter this, suppose 10, 10. The number which you have entered is 10. This is our output. Sorry. Okay, now let's go to the code and we'll see what is happening inside this code. Now this code is very much similar to our previous one, only there is some addition of some new elements. Like here we had written int a is equal to 0. What does this mean? It means we are declaring one variable which name is a and its type is integer, and we are initializing this variable with a value 0. Now we are printing a message on the screen for user to input a number of its choice. When user input the number, then we are collecting that value inside this variable a. Now the value of a is got updated from 0 to whatever the number user has inputted. And in this line, we just simply printing the message for the user with the value which he had inputted. That's it. So while executing, first it will print this message, enter a number, and then wait for the user input. Then when user input the number of his choice, it will next print the message for the user that he is input this number and the value of this number. That's it. Now I have said that C++ is the superset of C language. It means C++ should also support the keywords and syntax, whatever that is defined in C language. So let's check that also. We can write some C style code inside this program. First of all, I will clear this screen, this terminal. Okay, now start writing the code in C style. Printf now in C style slash n printf slash n, enter another another number. One thing, I will give this slash n at the end of this string. The slash n is here slash n is mainly used for the new line break. It means the next message which we are printing, it will print in the next new line. Scanf %d %a semicolon printf you have entered new number, and we have to give %d comma a. So we can put a new line character here and one new line character here, so that our code will look a bit clean in the terminal. Okay, now it's done. We can execute this one. It's running. Okay, now it is asking for a number. Enter a number. I will give suppose 25. It is print output of for the first input. Now it is asking for another number. I will give suppose 20. It will print my second number and exit. Done. Now here we have used two functions which are basically from C language, and that is printf and scanf. Let's have a look on that. Here printf has a similar functionality to that of cout. It will print the output message on the screen, and the scanf is a functionality similar to cin, but there is only the difference in the syntax. Here we are using %d, this one, to fetch the input from the user. It means that we are expecting the integer value from the user. The different syntax for different data types, like we have to use %s for string. Similarly, while printing the value along with the output message, we need to append %d in the message. During runtime, this %d is replaced by the actual value in the output message. Also, one thing I forgot to explain is this return statement. This one should always be the closing statement of the function, and this will return back the value to the point from where the function was called. This return is associated with the return type, this one, of this main function. Since we are not using any return value, so we just pass 0 here. Now coming to the output terminal, when we have executed the code, it first prints the message, this, enter a number, and wait here for the user input. When the user gives it input, it will print the next message. That is, the number which you have entered is 25. And it will print another message that is now in C style and ask for another number and wait here for the user input. When the user gives its input as 20, it will print the message along with the user input and exit. Done. So now we have completed our test code. Hope now you get the idea to write the basic C style C++ style code. So now we can move to our next section. So as we write and executed our first test code in C++, now we will look into the steps as taken by the compiler at the backend by which it understands and executes our code. I am having this flow diagram with me which will present a better picture of the same. Let's start with this. The process starts with the input of our source files, that is .cpp and header files. We have just seen what are the .cpp file in the previous section. The header files are those files in which we provide only the declaration of our class, structure, function, and variables. These header files are needed to be saved as .h type file extension so that compiler will recognize it. We will further provide the definition of the declared class, function, and variable in our source or .cpp file. For this, it is necessary to include the .h file into our source file by writing the #include command as we show earlier. Now, in the pre-processing phase, all the headers and macros like #define are expanded by the compiler. It means that in this phase, the compiler will read and decode the header files and the macros which we have used in the code. The output of this phase is a files of type .i or .ii. Then these files go to the next step of compilation, where compiler read and execute them and then give the output as assembly code in the format of .s. Now, the next step, these assembly codes go to the assembler, and after execution, it provides us the machine readable type code, or simply called as object code, with the extension of .o or .obj. Now coming to the final step of the linker, it takes as input the object code and also the static libraries if we are using any of them in our code. These static libraries are of the type .lib or .a. The linker will then link the .lib or .a files with the previously generated .obj files, and it will give us the final executable file in the form of .exe. When this .exe file is executed, we will finally see the output on the screen. So, with this section, we are now come to the end of this video. Thanks for be with me in this video. Hope this video is informative for you, and we will continue the same in the next episode. Till then, goodbye, keep learning, and please subscribe my channel and give a like to this video and let me know your comments in the comment section. This is your friend Shambhu Kachab signing off. See you soon.